Welcome to Fabula Celtica, a Celtic Studies podcast with Tyler Baxter.
And Saoirse.
Season 1, Ancient Ireland. Episode 15, Up the Workers.
Yo! Never cross a picket line, sorry.
It turns out, actually, that the place that I get to meet my supervisor when I move to Edinburgh next month, Saoirse, is on the picket line.
Uh-oh.
Which is... I think it sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to joining the picket line.
What do you mean?
Edinburgh staff.
Oh, are they on strike?
Yep. That's
good for them. Good for them.
Yeah.
Never cross a picket line, Sorry.
And it's very thematically appropriate. It's been a while since we had a chance to chat, and since our last recording, I think we've got quite a bit to talk about. But let's go ahead and get straight into today's episode. I want to start with a story that I think not too many people, even in Celtic studies, have necessarily come across. It's a fairly obscure one. But did you know by chance that there is a legendary tale about a proletariat uprising in the Irish sources?
No, I did not. Didn't think they were big Union fans. Not gonna lie.
Well, I mean, the ending, I think, for those of us of a more socialist perspective, might be a little disappointing.
Oh.
But the beginning, sounds pretty good.
It's normally in Celtic studies the guy with the big sword wins.
Yeah. I think between today's episode and our previous episode about women and children, that the theme generally is going to be that patriarchy and hierarchy continually win, which is a bit of a shame.
Woo.
But the stories are still fun. I don't know.
It's still there. Also, yeah, we said this in the last episode. Anyone who tries to tell you that early medieval Ireland was matriarchal is just trying to tell you something. So we said that before. We'll say it again. Don't cross the picket line. Don't be a scab.
Don't be a scab, please.
Don't be a scab. Thank you. Tell me this fascinating story.
Yeah. So basically, the story is that, and it depends on exactly which variant of it you're going for. In the earliest version that I'm aware of, which is a small part of another story that I've also done some work on, we are told that the Certhuitha, the freemen, or the noble class of Ireland, the nevid of Ireland, they and their reigning high king are overthrown by the Othachtuitha, the lower classes of Ireland.
Boo!
So I mean, at first I'm like, cool, good stuff. The workers and the dependent people and so on overthrowing the
they're
posh
rising up,
noble asses. Yeah, good stuff. And the leader of the Othachtuitha, I'll just say the Othach, the more base classes, is a fellow named Carbra Kincod. Carbra Cathead.
Oh.
Not because he has a literal cat head. In fact, I read an article that said his epithet was probably originally something that means hard head, and it, through various linguistic processes,
absolutely fantastic,
became cat head. There is a later tale where he is described as having a cat snout, so eventually gets to that point. But in the earlier version, it's just an epithet. But this is the guy who's the leader of the uprising, and in the longest version of this tale, Bruthen Mac Dareo, or the Hostel of Mac Dareo, we learn that this guy Carbra is actually one of three leaders, so there's been sort of this triplication of the story from the earlier version. This one's more elaborate and more detailed and also more gory, and it describes how Carbra and two other sort of leaders of the Othach people, they convince all of the nobles of Ireland to come to this big feast. Mm-hmm. And at this feast, they basically get them having a good time, get them nice and drunk, and then stab them all in the back.
Yeah,
so that this nice flood of blood comes out of the hostel in which they're giving the feast, to the quantity of 7 rivers of blood that are described as enough blood that if it were legal to do so, you could swim in.
Oh my God. Do you know what's actually fantastic? The amount of hospitality laws in early medieval Ireland.
Yes.
And they fucking love just stabbing people. They love stabbing their guests.
They sure do. Jesus. It actually really reminds me, too, of the British story, I think it's Geoffrey of Monmouth, perhaps, of the betrayal of Vortigern and the British nobles after the coming of Hengist and Horsa. They basically do the same thing where they bring them all into a feasting hall where it's the plot of the Long Knives is what it's called.
Is that the one with the endless bag and all the warriors? Or is that a different
I think you're thinking
one?
of the first branch of the Mabinogi.
I am. Excuse me.
Game. Yeah. Oh, that's a pretty gruesome little scene.
God,
as well.
They love killing their guests.
They sure do.
It'd make you not want to go to any more Christmas parties. It's proper. Yeah.
Well,
Jesus.
Anyways, this plot of the Long Knives thing is basically it's a British tale that involves bringing a bunch of powerful people into a feast where, because of those laws of hospitality that you're mentioning, which are similar in Britain and in Wales in particular, people are expected not to bring in weapons.
Yeah.
But all the people involved in the plot secretly bring in weapons and stab everyone in the back.
They fucking suck so much.
So
and you're there, you just made a pavlova.
It's
and
a tailpipe.
They're all stabbing each other. You're like, my pavlova, I didn't burn it this time.
Yeah.
It sucks, they suck. Anyway, sorry.
So basically through this very violent method, the proletariat class of early Ireland is able to overthrow the noble class, and only in this later version, 3 pregnant women manage to escape, and they escape to Alba, or to modern-day Scotland, where they safely deliver their babies. And we'll come back to this story a little later on, but that's the start. You might be able to guess where it's going with those escapees.
There's also a kind of possibly colonialist element to this as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Othig Tuath are, some people are proposing that they're like lesser kind of polities, but it's because that they're the native polities to Ireland. So they're the pre-Gaelic language, but that's just a theory that I heard, and will have to do with my thesis, and I'm not looking forward to it because I'm going to get stressed.
Yeah, it's really not super clear who these people are beyond territories associated with them.
Beyond people being like, they suck, by the way, don't go near, they smell.
It's clear that the words attached to this word tuath, which we've talked about before, this word for a group of people, a sort of petty kingdom in early medieval Ireland, the words attached to the Nevid group, Saoirse, that's very clearly referring to free people and in some cases noble people, and based on the context is very clearly the noble peoples that they're talking about here. And this word Othig, meaning more base. It's basically the exact opposite, but what does that really mean, base peoples? Hard to say. With that little teaser, we'll come back to the story in a bit, but I want to go through and talk about some of the different categories of people that we have yet to really speak to in any detail in early medieval Irish society. So there's essentially 3 categories here. If you really want to divide them up nicely, some of them, as we'll see, are a little harder to put into one category or another, and I think you'll get into that a little bit, Saoirse.
Yep.
In a wee while. But
I sure will.
we're going to do the very Irish thing, which is start with the most important people, who are the people higher up on the hierarchy, of course.
Oh yeah, man who owns the pub. Let's go.
So we'll be starting with the independent professional classes, who are not of Nevid rank. So these would discount. Of course, kings and lords are not really professionals anyway, I would say. But people like poets and people like the various churchmen would be considered of Nevid rank. So we're talking instead about most of our craftsmen and professionals like lawyers, physicians, druids even are listed in the law texts, and if we have time we'll have to get into that a little bit, because there's some debate around whether druids were even still in existence when the laws were being written down. Satirists are also listed here as separate. I think we mentioned this in the poetry episode, that they are not afforded Nevid rank if you're purely a satirist, if you're not a full phila, not a full poet. And then some of the craftsmen examples are things like wrights or carpenters, whichever you want to call them, blacksmiths, braziers, and so on. So that's one group that we'll be talking about today. Another group are the dependent classes, and the third group are the unfree classes, and there can be a little bit of uncertainty with a few of the people in these categories.
Yes,
but
there is.
some of the more clear-cut dependents who would not be at the low level of the unfree would be most entertainers, most general servants, and household fighters of various kinds, so bodyguards, champions, charioteers, who are all in service to a particular lord or other independent higher rank person. And then slipping more towards the unfree side of things, or less respectable dependents will say, well, we already talked about the situation with women and children last episode.
Woohoo! It was great, guys. It was
occasional exceptions, that rare poetess or a nun. It could always be a nun.
Oh, God, I'd love to be a nun someday.
Of course, most outsiders to your tuath. And then your favorite, slaves. And also captives.
Yes.
Which I think captives we could potentially put in the outsider territory category to an extent. Because they're generally captives from outside.
Yeah, well, I feel like they have like a leg in outsider status and also a leg in unfree status at the same time.
I think so.
But also kind of a pinky finger in maybe not nevid, but like respected. It depends why.
It depends on in what way they're taken captive.
Actually, yes, that's a great... Yeah, it depends why they're taken captive.
Yes.
Who they're taken captive from. Yes. Who they're taken captive for.
Yes. I think a good example would be in the episode, actually, before you came on, Saoirse, the last episode that I did solo, episode 12, Law and Order Royal Victims Unit. Our main story about the saga of Fergus MacLeisha. Sorry if I could just send Saoirse into a spasm. Oh, you should listen to that episode, Saoirse. I've got the theme tune in there and everything.
Oh my God, Tyler. What? Special royal unit?
Royal victims unit.
Royal victims unit.
So
I'm sorry. Oh my God, no.
I'm glad it entertained you. I'm hoping that did it for other people as well. So if you haven't listened to that episode, now you know you must go back. But in that episode, the main tale that I centered the episode around was the saga of Fergus MacLeisha, which has a lot of tie-ins to early Irish law and some specific kind of niche cases in certain types of law. And one of the characters in that tale was essentially a captive. She was a hostage on account of her son running away from paying a fine, and so she was taken in compensation for that. And that was Dorn. And as we saw in that episode, she's a woman. She is of a noble background, but she's been taken captive, and so she is basically reduced to the rank of a servant or even a couple, a female slave. So that's perhaps one example that most listeners will be familiar with, is this character, Dorn. Another bit of a story that I want to bring up here, because I think it provides a fun list for listeners to play a game with as we go through the tale, is a small and really quite delightful scene from the Cath Mugaturith, the second battle of Mogturith, when the character Lug, one of the supernatural entities, a character often described as a god in the literature, he is half Fovera and half Tuatha De Danann. We've talked about both of these categories of supernatural peoples in our earlier episodes. And he is born to his mother's people in the Fovera, but he eventually, partway through the story, decides to go and be with his father's people in the Tuatha De Danann. So when he first goes to the court of the Tuatha De Danann at Tara, he encounters this doorkeeper. The doorkeeper will only let someone in if they have a skill that is worth bringing forward to the court of Tara. And so Lug basically goes through this list, this constant refrain where he says, the doorkeeper says, we need someone of skill. And Lug says, well, question me, doorkeeper. I am a builder. I'm an excellent carpenter and wright. And the doorkeeper says, well, we don't need you. We already have our own really great wright.
So get fucked.
Yeah. Yes, we already have Lukta or Luktana, the wright. And Lug goes, question me, doorkeeper. I am a smith. Oh, we don't need you. We already have Govnu, the smith. Question me, doorkeeper. I am a champion. We already have Ogma, the strong man. And so Luke goes through this list and he keeps getting these responses of we already have that kind of person. So he says he's a harper. He says he's a warrior. He says he's a poet and historian. He says he's a sorcerer. He says he's a physician. He says he's a cupbearer. He says he's a brazier. And finally, he says, well, doorkeeper, do you have anyone in Tara with all of these skills?
Ooh, this guy has so much spare time.
He sure does. I wish I could learn all of those
I suppose
skills.
he's like a god or semi-god status. So. Still though, Jesus Christ, I can barely do a puzzle.
Right, I hear you. At this point, the doorkeeper's like, I'll be right back. Let me check in with my boss. And basically, this is enough to get Lug entry into Tara. For this reason, he is given the epithet Savaldanach, or equally skilled in many arts.
Aww.
Now, the game that I mentioned is towards the end of the episode. I'm going to bring up this list again, and listeners, my challenge for you is to figure out how many of them fall into this independent class that we're going to be talking about. How many of the different skills that he lists would fall into the dependent class if he was only that thing. And is there anything else in there besides those two classes that's represented?
What would he have done if he only presented one skill and it was dependent? Would he just have tied himself to the Tuath Dé Danann? Or is that just...
I think it's kind of a moot point because the very first one that he lists is an independent class.
Oh, okay.
And I think he does that on purpose. One thing that gets a little confusing is that in our texts, sometimes we get the descriptions of a character who seems to be mostly, say, a warrior, and yet they're portrayed as having their own land, their own... Sometimes they're described more like a minor lord or something like that. And I think what's going on there is that they probably, in most cases, are actually some sort of independent class, but also they do a lot of fighting.
Okay.
And so there's an important distinction between whether that is your main highest ranking thing that you are versus this is a skill that you're having, you're being described based on that skill.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Sort of.
It makes characters like Caholan, for instance, very tricky to figure out what status he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because he's constantly hyped up as the greatest warrior in Ulster, right? But he's... And sometimes he's described as like the prince or of Merthevna, this area that he's associated with and lives in. But also, he really doesn't get a title that clearly marks him out as something besides a dependent warrior class.
Okay. He also sucks.
He does suck in many ways.
Sorry.
Yes.
Nothing will make me like Cuchulainn.
But he's so
as a
attractive.
Oh, shut up. He was weird. He was a weird little guy. Sorry. No, I love him. He's like your jockey. He's like your cousin that shows up to your house every 3 months, eats all your food, blocks the toilet and leaves again, but he's kind of funny, so you're like, it's
sleeps
okay.
with your best friend.
Yeah, sleeps with your best friend, sleeps with your boyfriend, breaks up 2 marriages while he's there, and then puts the empty carton of milk back in the fridge, and he's like, all right, see you later, go on.
Yeah.
That's what I imagine.
Yeah. But
anyway,
no matter what he does, everyone has the hots for him.
Yeah, what the and he's a little twink. He's tiny.
He's a twink with 7 fingers on each hand.
Yeah,
and like weird eyes.
Yeah, and 19 pupils or something. And
it's great. I think
and
he
no
sounds
beard.
Hot.
Perfect.
Delicious 17-year-old.
I will. Yeah. Oh God, we're gonna get arrested.
I used to teach secondary school, and let me tell you, 17-year-olds, not attractive.
No, they smell.
Oh, they so
smell
gross.
so. Every so often they try. I work in a pub, and every so often they try come in and pretend that they're 18. I'm like, no, It's like, no, you're not. Like the reek of anxiety and your mom's body wash is coming off. Get away. Shoo.
If you are a 17-year-old boy and you are listening to this podcast, fair play.
I'm
make
sorry.
an exception for you.
Yeah, you're fine.
You're
the historians are cool. The historians are cool.
And when I say make an exception for you, I mean you're not sweaty and gross. I do not mean I'm attracted to you.
Yeah, no, that's not this podcast. No,
not about me. No, not about that.
You're not. Yeah, no, no alpha males here, please.
Yeah, no, you need to be at least in your late 20s.
Yeah, late 20s. Preferably with a tattoo that you regret. Back to the dependent class. Independent class.
Yes.
Totally nailed that.
So back to the independent classes. We'll start with. We'll just go through some examples. There's no way we'll be able to cover all of them, but we can look at quite a few that are reflected in the law text. And what better to start when we're talking about law text than to start with the people who deal with the law, the lawyers.
Who?
So the lawyers in medieval Irish and in Old Irish, really, the word for the main type of lawyer or jurist is a brithav. So the word is brithav. It seems to mean something like maker of judgments. Mm-hmm. It's related closely to the word breath, which means a judgment. So the maker of judgments, the brithav, this word is actually how we get the term brehon law. And it comes about because the genitive case of brithav is brithavon. And as Irish becomes modernized, th becomes more of a H sound. M, a broad M that is lenited, that is softened. So brithav is B-R-I-T-H-E-M. So brithav with that soft M. That can be pronounced more like a W as Irish kind of progresses. So Brehoan then gets anglicized as Brehon. So that's how we get Brehon law.
Oh.
So that's where this comes from, is this particular class of person, the brithav. And the brithav actually has a few different ranks, kind of similar to the poets, where they add different grades and different honor prices based on their grade. The highest ranking brithav, who is an expert in traditional law related to poets and poetry, and canon law, or the law of the church, has an honor price of 15 shades, or 7.5 cows.
Yes.
A brithav who only specializes in traditional law and poetry has an honor price of 10 shades, and the lowest ranking brithav, focus mainly on laws relating to craftsmen, would have an honor price of 7 shades. Mm-hmm. And it seemed that each tuath would have a brithav tuatha that was appointed by the king. So there is a particular brithav that has jurisdiction over the whole tuath. And there may well have been other lower ranking brithav within larger tuatha as well. When dealing with a case, leading up some sort of case in the legal system, the brithav had to swear on the gospel and pledge 5 unga, or ounces of silver, mm-hmm. in order to... It's basically collateral for if the brithav fucks up.
Yeah, if you fuck up.
Or
if no one agrees with you.
Yeah, or if the brithav doesn't follow the law themselves. The brithav is expected to bear responsibility for the errors, so that's part of why that's being put up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
I didn't know that.
If a brithav is caught out on doing something that's not quite right, either because they didn't know the law very well, or they intentionally did something they shouldn't have, then they are responsible for making amends. Whether that be through financial compensation, making a correction to a judgment, getting replaced or thrown out, whatever it may be.
Or a captive.
Or taken captive, indeed. Yes.
Full circle.
Indeed. The brithav also had sort of a counterpart known as the agna, which is more equivalent to a barrister or an advocate who pleads the case of their clients. Mm-hmm. And the agna would be entitled to 1/3 of the award of a legal proceeding if they are successful in making their case on behalf of their client. They were most likely educated through the same system that a Brithив was. And they have some extra protection, however, where the Brithив is responsible if they mess up something. The Agna is protected by law if they are misinformed about something by their client. So if their client lies to their advocate, the advocate is not responsible for working with that misinformation and making a false case.
That's very fair.
Right? Yeah, like the early Irish laws are so interesting in how fair they seem in certain situations and how unfair they seem otherwise.
I love the laws. The laws makes no sense. I
think they're very consistent and really quite reasonable as long as you're dealing with one specific tier of society. It's once you go across the hierarchy that everything is not so fair.
Yeah, they really do not like that line. They do not like crossing the picket fence.
They really, well, they like crossing the picket fence in one direction only.
Yeah, in one direction only. And it's the way that benefits the king. But
yes, exactly. This particular class of advocate seems to have replaced an earlier non-professional advocate known as a fethiv or guardian, which often seemed to have been the head of the king group that was dealing with the case. The Corpus Juris Hibernici, so the collection of the legal judgments, has some triads and heptads that I've mentioned before. So groups of 3s and 7s.
Which Fergus Kelly is finally publishing, I think, in the next year.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Oh my god. He gave a talk up at Dias when I was there for the linguistics thing. Oh my god. I was like chewing on the seat in front of me. It's so exciting.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Because we do have editions of the triads, but the heptads I'm not sure of being very accessible at all.
No. Even just the corpus in general is all in Latin, so it's not very...
Yeah.
For me, anyway.
Yeah. No, me neither.
No.
So, I mean, I can work through Latin, but it takes me some time.
Yeah, I can't.
I actually prefer working through Old Irish, which is saying something.
Yeah. Do you know what I have to say? Sorry, we should probably talk. Yeah. I have to say, starting your linguistic journey with Old Irish makes everything else so much easier.
By comparison.
Yeah. Like, I did a little bit of Welsh and I was like, oh, there's no...
Yeah.
Where's the initial mutations? Okay, that just geminates or it changed. Oh, anything else? No? Sick!
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Middle Welsh grammar. So simple compared to Old Irish.
Oh my god.
Like, it's very quirky.
Yeah.
But once you get used to
like,
the quirks...
we got literally one sheet of paradigms.
Yeah.
And he was like, that'll cover it.
Yep.
I nearly got sick.
Yep.
I was like, what do you mean?
Yep.
What do you mean? Anyway, sorry, back to...
It's good stuff. These triads and heptads, so I picked out a couple. These are ones that actually Fergus Kelly, speaking of, picked out in a guide to early Irish law. So that's where I'm pulling these from. 3 blemishes for a Brithив: foolishness, ignorance, and negligence. So these are what you don't want to be if you are this lawyer or jurist of early medieval Ireland.
And most are.
Indeed.
In today's society anyway. So.
It's funny how that reflects on current lawmakers and lawgivers. 7 props, so things that prop up and make a Brithив someone worth looking up to and worth respecting, are the law of monastic clients, the law of lordship, laws of marriage, laws of kinship, the law of boundaries, laws of treaties, and rights of sons. A nice little additional list to what I already gave for the various laws that help determine a Brithiv's status. It gives you a little bit of insight just by those titles as to what seems to have been sort of the main concerns of the day. Mm-hmm. Before we move on from the Brithivs, I want to return to that story we started with of the uprising of the Othach Thuatha and continue where we left off. So we're told that after Carbra Cathead takes up the leadership of the kingship of Ireland after having gotten rid of all the nobles and sent a handful of pregnant women fleeing to Alba.
Great guy.
Yeah. Well, we're told that then basically Ireland suffers major environmental issues. Drought, famine, things aren't growing, that sort of thing, which is a very common theme across Celtic literature, not just in Ireland, of bad kingship equals land not producing
land
stuff
not happy.
for you.
Land not happy.
This is something that we see coming up again and again. So unfortunately, the proletariat uprising doesn't seem to have brought prosperity.
This also kind of has just connections again with the Tuatha being kind of lower status. Because there is, I actually think, Heptad, that says, do not release slaves or semi-free because there will be no crops and the weather will turn on you.
Right.
So that could have just spitballing.
Everyone has to stay in their allotted place.
Say your own thing, or God will punish us all.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is a major theme of, for instance, the Táin. All the disaster happens to the Connachta because it is Medivh, it is the queen who is instigating everything and leading everything when it should be her husband.
Yeah.
And so she gets her comeuppance for stepping out of place. Love that, misogyny in there too.
We talked about this.
Yes. That seems to be what's going on here. I think there's another layer to it too, that one of the terms used to describe the slaughter of the nobles of Ireland is moringal, or in other words, a great fingal, a great kinslaying. So it seems that these people aren't entirely separate kin groups, but actually that there are relationships between the Othach group and the Saor, the noble group, that they slaughter. And as we've discussed in previous episodes of the podcast, fingal is one of the most horrendous crimes imaginable to the medieval Irish people because it completely messes with the whole accountability system that is built up, because accountability is usually taken by the family, not just the individual. And so payouts for things like murder go to the family. So if it's the family killing the family, how are you going to deal with that?
How does the family pay the family?
Also, just killing your family members is generally frowned upon in
weird.
sort of a more moral way.
They just really actually freaked out at the concept of it.
So we have this description of fingal, which may also be part of the reason that the land is so unwilling to give crops and good stuff and flowing milk from the cows and all of that. And so after basically Ireland suffers for a while under Carbo's rule until he eventually passes away. And then his son, whose name is Morin, interestingly usually called Morin Macmween or Morin Macmween, which is not the name of his father, but according to a different story, is because his father is Carbra, but seems to be the name perhaps of a foster father he had. But Morin is offered the kingship, and he says, no, that wouldn't be just. Actually, what we should do is we should send word to Alba, and we should get the child of those pregnant women who fled. We should get one of them to come over and take the kingship and put things right.
Okay.
And so they do that, and Morin is rewarded by being placed into the high judgeship of Ireland. So he becomes like the top Brithv.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty good move.
Yeah.
Pretty selfless move as well.
Yeah, and it also creates an interesting balance of power where now you have one of the people from the original noble group in the kingship, but that's sort of balanced out by one of the descendants of the Othach group in this high judgeship. That's a really interesting element to it. Of course, then we're told that the king who takes over is really oppressive to all the lower group class people, and that this causes problems, and so they retaliate against him and kill him. And then it basically kind of sets up a readiness for a repeat of this same story. It's kind of the cyclical story where it sets it up to happen again.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that interesting?
I mean, they couldn't have just let them live. They wouldn't just.
So up the workers, I guess.
Oh. Do you know? I think this is just people suck. That's the main takeaway of most stories.
You know who may be able to repair some of this here, Shay?
Cú Chulainn.
I was going to say doctors.
Ah.
Yeah, this is my very
clever
segue into physicians.
Doctors, well, I mean, you need them after all
that carnage.
After all that stabbing.
And all that, malnutrition.
Oh, Jesus. 3 women giving birth by themselves. Terrible stuff.
Yeah.
Bring in the doctor.
The physician class does seem to have had grades as well, but regardless of the grade, a physician had an honor price of 7 shades. So the same amount as the lower ranking Brithov. Mm-hmm. Another triad relating to physicians, 3 ideals to strive for: a complete cure, leaving no blemish, and a painless examination. And that is from Brathaneviv Tishoch. So there we have, I think, ideals that doctors today should continue to strive for. Full cure, no blemish, and painless. Yeah, sounds pretty good.
That sounds pretty nice.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind a GP visit like that. That'd be pretty good.
Yeah, it would be good, wouldn't it?
That'd be nice.
Something that I think makes a lot of sense in a period before university credentials and the like is that in order to practice, a physician required recognition from the Tuath.
Yeah, I think that does make sense.
Yeah.
You don't want just some random fella rocking in and being like, I will help your cough. And then
yes, I think this helps
just
avoid the quack doctor issue, potentially. And partly for that reason, and also just because of practicalities, this, like some of the other classes we've talked about before, such as the Phila, was probably, for the most part, a hereditary profession. Mm. And it is partly through that means, through kind of the affiliation with your king group and knowing that, hey, this particular family has been the physicians of our area for years and years and years. That's probably how you get the public recognition a lot of the time, is that, everyone knows that your uncle has been practicing here for a long time and that he's trained you. So, of course, we're going to recognize you as his heir to this position.
Just relating to the family, the inherited kind of status of doctors. My boyfriend's last name is Calnan, and his dad, he is from Thurles, and really into genealogies. But apparently they were, I think, for something like 600 years, the local doctors. And there's something, I actually don't know Calnan Oscuelga. I don't know what I only know the anglicised version of it, right. But apparently it relates back to the old word for physician.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, just fun.
Oh, that's lovely. Now, see, I foolishly didn't even put down what the word for physician is.
I want to say lech.
Oh, yes, of course. Lich, I think, which means also...
Leech.
Yes.
Because in our not our paradigms, in our workbook for Old Irish, there's a sentence to translate, and it's like, and he threw the lech against the wall, and I was like, why is he throwing doctors at the wall? And then he was like, wait, why is he throwing leeches at the wall? This doesn't make any sense. And yeah, it was.
Yeah, because, of course, leeches were one of the physician's main tools in their toolkit. So a doctor is a leech is a doctor. Wonderful symbiotic relationship between man and parasite. Besides leeches, which is implied in the name, the main tool in the physician's toolkit seems to have probably been herbs. There's lots of literary references as well as references in the law text to the importance of herbs, though I don't think we have a ton of details about it.
No, I don't think we do. I do know that wild garlic and wild carrot was used for abortion.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
Fun fact, if you're in an area that doesn't allow abortion, come from a culture where abortion was illegal until 2016. And we saw the detriment to it, not to make this place... political, but we saw the detriment.
This episode's already political.
Yeah, fuck it. Sorry, guys. It's human rights. Sorry about that. That's so shit. Oopsie. Sorry, you guys don't want healthcare. Anyway.
Yeah,
sorry.
I mean, the medieval Irish probably won't be too happy with this episode, but also they're dead. They're
dead. Also, actually, I think we talked about this in the women's episode about how abortion was semi-accepted.
Yes, though it was a reason for, well, infanticide was a reason that a man could divorce his wife, but I don't know if abortion would be counted as infanticide.
Yes. It was not.
Oh, it was not.
It was a whole thing.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay, very good. Yeah. So even though the laws were not terribly progressive towards women, there were certain things.
There were some things
that were better than most other medieval European cultures.
Yeah. How bad?
Yeah.
Well.
And then finally for the physicians, they were entitled to draw blood in surgery, but if they cut a joint or a sinew, then they had to pay a fine and assume responsibility for sick maintenance of the patient. So no cutting of joints or sinews.
No, don't do that. Have we talked about sick maintenance?
It's definitely been mentioned in some episodes, but we haven't talked about it in detail necessarily. There's a scene in the Comparative that I think I might use, so I fully intend, whether or not it'll happen or not, after I'm in Scotland, because I don't think this is going to happen before then, to record a few episodes about that text. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to use some instances in it to refer back to some of these earlier episodes and compare and contrast. And there is a sick maintenance related episode in that text that I would like to get into. But is there anything you want to say on the topic?
First of all, I love it. Like, will I describe it?
Yeah,
I suppose.
I think.
So sick maintenance is, again, everything in early medieval Ireland is hierarchical, consequential, communal. Those are your big three. So sick maintenance is if you hurt someone at all, or hurt someone to the point that they cannot leave the bed and they cannot fulfill normal duties. And there's a specific one where this should have killed them. You have to pay for a third party to come in and look after them, or for them to go to a third place. I'm not explaining this very well.
Yeah. No, this makes sense.
But they have to go to like a mutual place where they are looked after and healed. And it depends on the person's status of the kind of food and the care that they receive. So I think it's, if you're a prince, you get meat, you get honey, you don't have to do any work at all. I think if you're just a small farmer, you get gruel with a bit of salt, sometimes with butter, depending again on the kind of status. Also, this is just a really lovely one. This is nothing to it, sick maintenance. I just think it's really sweet. Yeah. In one of the Cayley Day, which were a type of kind of Christian sect, I'd say.
Yes, it's very austere.
Yes, in one of their law tracts, just for like within the monastery, they would, if a monk got sick, the abbot was in charge of preparing their gruel or their porridge basically, but they would add in more butter every day to try fatten them up and not tell them, so they wouldn't feel guilty for using up resources. And I read that and I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Yes. Like, you want him to get better, but you don't want him to feel bad. I'm gonna cry.
I think this was the Cayley Day took inspiration from Saint Marilyn of Tullett.
I actually have no idea.
I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, we'll
might do an episode about that at some point. I'm debating on whether to do an episode about early Irish Christianity or whether to, because like that could be an entire series on.
Yeah, I was like, that could be a fucking PhD, Tyler. Jesus.
But like an overview of kind of the types of clerics that were knocking around and the very basic overview of the functions and that sort of thing. But talking about the Cayley Day, I think would
they just love nature. These guys, they were not druids. No one ever, if you ever call them druid, I'll hunt you down personally. But they were like, oh, one with nature, yay, yay. Yeah. They're like, God's miracles are in everything, yay. Yes. Pretty much.
Yeah. No, that is a nice tie into the sick maintenance idea. Sneaking some extra sustenance into their gruel. It was this very austere community, and they would normally reject that. So you do it secretly so that the sick person doesn't know you've done it, but that way they get better.
They still get better.
There were provisions being made that made sense while still trying to allow the people to maintain their austere lifestyle as much as possible. Last thing on the part of the physicians, and this ties back to the story about Lug and the gatekeeper. 4 of the independent professions that Lug mentioned are also reflected in 4 characters who are often grouped together among the Tuatha De Danann. So one was a physician, and there is a law text that is named after the main physician character of the Tuatha De Danann, Dian Cecht. And we're actually going to wrap up this episode with a story about Dian Cecht. But he was put alongside the carpenter Luchta or Luchtana, the smith Gavnu, and the brazier Cregna. These 4 characters, minus Dian Cecht, often known as the 3 craftsmen, but Dian Cecht was put with them sometimes too. Each of these had, at one point in time, had a law text named after them. Mm-hmm. So the Bretha Dian Cecht, or the Judgments of Dian Cecht, is the only one of those that actually survives intact. We have the titles of the others, but not really much of the content, maybe an occasional quote here and there. The Judgments of Dian Cecht is a law text that concerns physicians and things like what is required to pay for different injuries and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So we assume that the other law texts are about laws relating to carpentry and to smithcraft and to the brazier would be a smith as well, but more in the working of soft metals like gold and silver.
Oh, could I also just jump in? And I'm so sorry because I keep derailing this podcast.
Not at all.
But I just want listeners just to be very wary. This is not your Greco-Roman pantheon. Mm-hmm. And just be very, very... Because, yes, these gods were related... Or these godlike figures, these otherworldly figures are related to these things. They are not the god of.
Yes.
Because this gets very often construed and very often kind of really weirdly warped, especially into weird fascist Reddit group chats. And just be very wary. This is not a pantheon. The Irish mentality towards the Tuatha De Danann is there's this really cool guy. He does this. They're otherworldly. They probably are still kicking about, we just can't see them because we're on this side of the world.
Yes.
So sorry to derail again.
I think that's important. In at least one of his papers, Professor John Carey, here in UCC, who's kind of like the main Celtic mythologist.
He's a god.
he's the main mythologist among Celtic studies nowadays. There's not too many people that are really mythologists, and that's John Carey's main thing. And he recommends that it's actually better to call them something like immortals rather than gods.
Yes, yeah.
Even though the word god is in some of their names, like Tuatha Dé, that Dé is tribe of gods, or names like the Dagda is usually translated as the good god.
Yeah.
there's other characters that have this kind of day or aspect to their name, but as Saoirse is saying, it's not really very helpful to think of them as gods of in that pantheon sense. And also I think part of that comes down to how these characters, these immortals, have their own genealogies, and so there can't really be a god of the sea, for instance, even though I'll often call Manannán mac Lir the god of the sea for ease. He's the son of Lir, whose name means sea. So which of them is the god of the sea? Are they both the god of the sea?
Are they both god of the sea? Are they both? Or is it just like that's the guy that rules the sea?
And then Manannán has all sorts of sons himself, and some of them are associated with the sea. So are they the god of the sea? Are all of them the gods of the sea?
And if I catch any of ye bitches calling the Morrigan a fury, a war goddess, I'm gonna fucking strangle you. It's actually everywhere. It's in Sarah J. Maas's Court of Thorn and Roses. I want to fucking strangle bitches.
I mean, it's an academic writing all the time too.
Stop it. She's not. This is not Greece. It's the weather is a lot more shit. The food is a lot more shit. We probably have a lot more laughs because we're a lot more drunk. Okay, but their spirits are better in Greece. The weather is better in Greece, and they have a completely different mythological system.
Yes.
So please stop. This is a me thing. This is totally a me thing. It was sorry. Yeah. I'm going on a fucking tangent. Yeah. Nothing boils my blood like it. We're not in the Edwardian era. Stop comparing everything to Greece and Rome. this is colonialism, and I don't know, maybe white supremacy. Fuck it, why not? Fucky, stop it. I don't like it. Stop. I'm crashing out. I'm going to start having a panic attack. Stop. I actually just want red in the face. Sorry.
Down with this thing.
Down with that sort of thing. Don't like it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. I think that's really important to bring in at some point, and why not there?
Sorry. I keep derailing this. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, it's all good. We can pull that back together by saying, so these 4 craftsmen of the Tuath a Day, the immortals of Ireland.
Yeah, the other fellas.
Yeah. Of course, we can compare back to their mortal counterparts. So the honor price for the physician we already looked at, 7 shades. The honor price for a wright or carpenter can be anywhere from 7 to 20 shades, which is pretty hefty, which is based on how many specialist objects they can make out of wood and such. In particular, the categories of specialist building that they need to learn in order to get all the way up to that price of 20 shades, and then depending on how many of these you have, you go down the scale for -1 each time. They are church building, mill construction,
very important,
boat building, and for some reason manufacturing articles from yew. Yew wood.
You would.
Yes. I don't know why that's its own category.
Wait a minute.
I don't know. No. I mean, I know nothing about carpentry, so maybe yew is hard to work with. Maybe it's because of the things you make with it, or like something
I
that's
was
particularly
recently
specialist.
going through one of the law texts. I'm looking for it now. And it was talking about different types of wood being attributed to different types of status. 1 second.
Yes.
So maybe...
Yes.
What was you...
Was it in Kelly's Early Irish Farming?
No. It was in like one of the actual... And I was really impressed with myself because I was like, oh, look at me going to primary sources.
Because Kelly does have a table in there where it does kind of give them like these certain trees, the ones that are most valuable are called the nobles of the wood.
Yeah.
And the ones that are the next most valuable are the commoners of the wood or whatever.
It was Breha Covhesho. COMAITHCHESO.
Oh yeah, that's a mouthful.
Covhesho?
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Oh, I have dyslexia. Blackthorn, elder, spiderwood, white beam, apparatus,
yes.
juniper. Oh, there was more, but I only took down the lower class of wood. Oh my god, it's gonna... Sorry, I'm derailing it again. I'm so sorry.
Where does yew rank on that list?
Yeah, no, that's because if it's saying what you can make out of yew, is that just kind of implying like what you can make for... Because let's say yew is for the nevid, which I think it is.
Oh, see, that I didn't know.
Then,
that would make sense then.
Then it's like, what can you make for the aristocracy?
That would make a lot of sense if that's the case. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what yew is specifically used for in early medieval Ireland.
I'm gonna piss
if any
myself.
Listeners are into carpentry and woodwork, maybe
Bodies, please. Bodies, please.
I think I have that list of trees in here somewhere. Oh,
sorry.
Yes, yew is among that higher class, along with oak, hazel, holly, ash, Scots pine, wild apple. So most of those, I'll talk about this in the farming episode, next episode, but those particular trees seem to have been particularly valued because either they had produce that they produced.
Whoa.
Whoa, wild. So things like, acorns off of oaks, which are very good for animal feed, or nuts from, the hazel and of course apples from the apple. Then the others that are listed are probably because of their value as building materials. We'll put a pin in that, but that's how the right is set up. So the right has different grades and quite a big range of honor prices. That's quite a good honor price at that maximum of 20 shades or 10 cows. That's pretty darn good. The blacksmith, and as well as the brazier or silver coppersmith, whatever you want to call them, those guys are all 7 shades, like the physician, like the lower class of right as well. We have some other interesting craftsmen, like the engraver would have an honor price of 3 shades. And here's an interesting one, the chariot builder. would have an honor price of 3 shades.
These fucking chariots, man.
That we have no archaeological evidence of having existed in Ireland.
Do we even want to get into that? Do you want to get into that?
I've mentioned it before in some past episode. I don't remember which one. Yeah, they show up in the literature all the time. They show up in the law texts, but we haven't been able to find any chariots.
We've no fucking evidence.
Nope.
So I think it was Rory O'Higgins suggested that it's actually just borrowings from other like more classical Greco-Roman fuck but from like Gaulish Celts,
right?
And then maybe it goes back to Indo-European, but I have no idea.
I mean, so here's what I want to pull in here is that my personal sense, and this could be totally wrong just because the evidence is just not strong enough for either argument, but my personal sense for this is that a handful of things in the law text, specifically something like the chariot builder having this particular honor price, and things like laws relating to druids, who are a pre-Christian class that probably wasn't around for terribly long after Ireland was Christianized. I think a lot of those may have been created to support the literature that was going around rather than support some people that were actually present.
Oh, that would make sense.
That's my hypothesis.
But we also, like, the thing that wrecks my head the most, that would make sense. I'm not disputing that. But what wrecks my head the most is that we have enough words for small parts of the chariot to reconstruct a chariot. Mm-hmm. That is the only thing that I'm like, maybe.
Yeah.
And like these are like substantial pieces of wood that you would use elsewhere, but we also keep forgetting like books and bodies and bogs. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm continually hoping that a chariot gets pulled out of a bog at some point.
If someone would make a chariot, make it look really old and throw it into a bog, I would actually take that. I wouldn't. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, sorry, that bad joke. I'm a historian. I'm a proper historian.
You can consider it experimental archaeology.
Ooh. Yeah, it's just experimental, guys.
Yeah.
Or although I suppose would they even go over bogs? Like they probably wouldn't go over. Like they're quite...
Well, I mean, some of the bogs that are around now weren't necessarily bogs when things came into them in some cases.
Really?
So.
I know nothing.
I mean, but that would mostly be metallic objects that could survive when it was, still like a pond or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they're definitely like some of like the prehistoric treasures that we have were probably deposited into bodies of water that eventually became bogs.
We love bodies of water.
Of course, things like bog butter and bog buddies. Buddies?
Me and my bog buddies.
Bog bodies? Bog buddies could be such a thing.
Oh my god, Tyler.
That's a merch idea.
I went to see the bog bodies for the first time.
Oh my
summer.
God. Aren't these wild?
Now, I do have to say, I love how they actually laid it out, because when you compare how the bog bodies are laid out to the sarcophagi, Jesus.
Yeah.
One is a lot more respectful than the other. For the people that haven't been to the National Archaeological Museum?
I think it's just the
one
National Museum.
Yeah, one in Kildare Street.
Oh yeah. The National Museum has a few bits. I don't keep track.
We have a couple. And they're all small and all have really vague.
You can walk from one to the other really easily.
Yeah, it's fine. It's grand. But they have like a kind of, I don't know, privacy swirl around the bog body. So you you can't just be walking around like a 4-year-old and like accidentally find a very preserved body. Like you have they have like all the information about the person, or all that we know about the person on the outside, and you read it and then you have to go kind of swirl around to actually see it. I was like looking at a man's fingernails and I was like, oh, this is someone's boy. It's
the fingernails that freak me out the most about it. Like it's so like, I mean, obviously they're real, but hyper realistic is the word that comes to mind.
Yeah, but it's just so you're like looking at them and you're like, this is someone's child. Mm-hmm. Like this guy had a favorite color. Mm-hmm. This guy had a favorite bowl of oats. You know, like he liked them with like a tiny bit of salt. You know, and it's just like, God.
Yeah. I think I mentioned in a previous episode that one of those bog bodies, I can't remember which one, they found like a resin in his hair that seems to come from Spain.
He did his hair.
Yeah.
He liked his hair looking a certain way. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I didn't
also
smoke
a rich
any.
bastard importing things from Spain, so.
Yeah, probably very unethical. What was that? Amazon Prime, was it?
Bastard.
You paid for Bezos' shitty wedding, did you?
Yeah,
Fuck's sake.
So one of my favorite craftsmen that I've got here. So the some of the lower ranking craftsmen that are still considered independent and still have their own honor price are the leather worker, which has an honor price of a yearling heifer or a half of a shade. So a quarter of a cow, a quarter of a milk cow. Well, I think it kind of makes sense that a leather worker is probably not going to be the most respected in society because their work is pretty stinky.
I was actually just thinking about the smell. I swear to God. I was like, that guy must stink.
Super important. They probably made pretty good
bucks
money. Well, bartering
exchanges,
off of their wares, but low honor price, probably partly on account of how gross their work is.
Think about it. Is it lye at this stage?
That would definitely be part of it.
Yeah, you have lye, which also
you also use it for preparing vellum and stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know if anybody smelled it kind of burns your nose.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And then you also have semi-preserved, semi-rotting flesh, and then you're scraping all the fat off.
Yeah.
This guy stinks.
Yeah.
This guy stinks.
Yeah. So I think that's why that's happening. But my favorite, I think, is the comb maker, who has the same honor price. But for some reason, and probably similar reasons to the leather worker, they seem to have been especially despised.
Oh.
Our references to the comb maker include this lovely little extract from the Bretha Nevydd Taoiseach, which says, so it's a little triad, but it's kind of a satirical triad. Mm-hmm. Let's see what you make of this, Saoirse. 3 things confer status on the comb maker: racing a dog contending for a bone, straightening the horn of a ram by his breath without fire, chanting on a dunghill so that he summons on top what there is below of antlers and bones and horns.
Yeah, this guy sucks. Okay, so it just kind of sounds like he's actually a bit of a grave robber.
Yeah, it sounds very necromantic also.
Yeah, it sounds very necromantic. So, so I'm assuming they're all made of bone.
Yeah, so combs at this time would have generally been made
these boners, oh my God,
out of bone and antlers. So where would the comb maker typically get their wares? Well, from middens and dung piles.
Whoa.
That's where they would tend to go to get these things, because that's where they're going to find the most of them without having to go out and kill an animal.
Why is he... why are you going through a pile of shit? That's what I don't know. Because there's nothing, not even bears could eat a bone.
I don't think this is necessarily because it's coming from anyone's excrement. I think it's coming from other waste that's being dumped in the same place, such as the things that a butcher's not going to keep.
Oh, I get you now.
Otherwise, I'm a little concerned about the early Irish diet.
Sorry, I was probably why the fuck? Why?
Yeah, no.
Jesus,
I mean, I think that's a fair enough thing to ask, because people may be wondering that too. This wouldn't have... It would have been a place to do your shitting, but it also would have been a place to dump other stuff.
I'm so sorry. I'm doing a master's. And I was like, why is he going through the shit? Why? Sure, why would he be fine? Sure, they're not swallowing whole bones.
Did even your slaves have to do that?
Yeah, oh, no. My poor slaves. Oh, my little guys.
This is one place where the comb maker may have been worse off, honestly. So I just want to go through this satirical triad one piece at a time here. Saoirse literally had to step away from the microphone to get this out of their system. So to recap this, 3 things gone for status: racing, a dog contending for a bone. So basically making up this situation where the comb-maker is so greedy for bones that he is racing a dog who has been given a bone to get the bone, right? Which is a dehumanizing portrayal of the comb-maker, I would say. Then we've got this one I'm quite bemused by. I don't know what to make of it necessarily. Straightening the horn of a ram by his breath without fire.
He's saying he has stanky breath.
Oh,
he has stanky.
I like that interpretation. I like that interpretation. The only thing that I've been able to think of ever since I read this, which has been like a couple of years now, is that it might be saying he's full of hot air.
Oh, maybe.
But I don't know if that's a phrase or an idiom that translates to early Ireland.
I kind of prefer that he's stinky breath, though.
I think I prefer that interpretation, too. I think it's more likely to translate to that early context.
Yeah.
I don't know how likely it is that this idiom in English goes all the way back to early medieval Irish.
Well, I think it kind of makes sense in the context as well, because it's like acting like a beast, perhaps having stanky breath, like a beast, and then
chanting on a dunghill so they summons up bones and
necromancy.
Yeah, which is just a hilarious image, but also, you know, put some in the company of druids, I suppose, but also ones who can only do useless stuff on dung heaps.
Yeah, I'm also just imagining, I'm not imagining anything impressive as well when it's like chanting.
Right.
I'm just imagining him going, please, 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 I really need a bone. I really need to make combs, guys.
Give me a bone.
Guys, please, please, give me the bone. And eventually the earth being like, oh my god, shut up. Take it. Oh, sorry.
So funny. So I think at this kind of lowly level of the independent classes, it makes sense to at this point transition to the dependent classes.
Oh, my guys.
I think the thing that will probably spring to mind for most people if they had to guess, and if I hadn't already given a list at the top of the episode of what constitutes a dependent profession in early medieval Ireland, one of the first things people would probably guess are servants. And that would be correct. Servants who are not necessarily slaves, ones that are more employees. The servants that are considered dependents but are not unfree like the slaves, which we'll be getting to, would be servants for general housework and farm work. You have specialized servants for lords and kings in particular, and perhaps some of the richer independent freemen, such as carvers and cupbearers, who are going to be, the carver is, of course, the person who divides the food at a meal and at feasts in particular. The cupbearer, of course, is someone who dispenses drink. Cupbearers in particular seem to have had particularly magical associations. They show up in, for example, Cath Magaturth. Among the Tuatha De Danann, there are cupbearers who pledge to aid in the battle using particularly magical methods. There's perhaps some association there that we can draw with like the idea of the sovereignty goddess figure dispensing drink. So perhaps that's part of the reason that they get pulled up so often in the literature. Any soldier or warrior who is attached to a particular lord or household. There's a household warband is known as the Cathern Tira, and so usually this would consist of a champion, or literally a strong man, a charioteer possibly, if those actually existed. Maybe. People like lookouts and bodyguards and so on. And then by far the most important servant, I think, in the house of a noble person or a privileged person would be that person's rectora, their steward. All the dependent classes, as we talked about in our episode about women and children, their honor price is calculated as a fraction of the independent person who they are dependents of. And in the case of a rectora, they have half the honor price of their employer, which is pretty substantial because you're usually only going to be a rectora to a lord or a king. So they've got quite a strong, solid honor price. what does the rectora do? What does the steward do? They do things like they arrange the seating for feasts, which is very important that you have all the people positioned according to rank. It's very, very bad if you have that done incorrectly. They prepare accommodation for guests. They keep on top of the food stock for the Lord's household and make sure that all that's accounted for. And they also are the person who is responsible for collecting rent for the Lord in the case of clientship arrangements, which we'll be talking about later. The other thing that I want to mention about the rectora, that will give us a nice list of some other types of people we would see in early medieval Ireland, is the name rectora. This kind of gave me pause, and Saoirse, you may recall this because I got really excited about this one day during Old Irish
Yes,
tutorial.
you did. I actually was just thinking about that.
I was really confused about why a rectora is called a rectora for a long time, because it's a word that comes from the word rect, which actually means law or judgment, plus era, which is a suffix known as a suffix of agency, which is similar to what you get in English with ER. A farmer, for instance, in English is a person who farms, right? That's what this kind of is. A lawyer in English is a person who does law.
That's cool.
Yeah, so era, so era in medieval Irish is a suffix of agency. I've got a list of other examples of this that I'm going to go through, and then I'll come back to that rect part after that, and why is the word for law attached to era, because then you would think that should mean lawyer, but we've already talked about the brithiv, and a rector is definitely not a lawyer. So we'll come back to the rect in a second, but let me just go through the other era examples first. And Saoirse, I'm going to test you and see if you can figure out any of these.
Fuck. Okay.
You'll have some of these from modern Irish, and some of them are from your vocabulary, and some of them are not too bad. I bet you'll get you'll get some of them.
Okay, yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Cocera, COC era.
Cooker?
Yeah, someone who cooks.
Oh, getting.
Cornera.
CON.
CORN.
No idea.
Horn player.
Oh.
In English, horn and corn actually, they do share a root, and we can see this in the word cornucopia, which is a horn-shaped basket.
Huh.
So cornera is a horn player. Very similar to that, pipera.
Piper?
Yes.
Get in, Saoirse. Go on.
Notera.
Like a note taker?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or another word for scribe, really. Oh, this one's fun. I don't think you'll get this one, but you'll be like, oh, of course, after I tell you what the answer is. Usura. U-S.
I want to say like a user.
Close.
Like usoid.
It's a usurer, one who commits usury.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Get in. Go Saoirse. I'm number one.
Okay,
man.
This one is perhaps
number one.
my favorite. It's also a little grim. Bossera. B-A-S.
Like a mortician or something?
Not too bad. It's actually someone who causes. It's an executioner.
Oh.
So boss means death.
Yeah.
So a deather.
Death guy.
Death giver, really. Echera.
Oh, he's a groom.
Yes.
For horses.
Yes, exactly. So literally a horser, I suppose.
Horse guy.
Yeah, horse guy. And then these ones we're going to talk about in the next episode, but the words for farmer or strong farmer is bowera, and small farmer is ogera, and they respectively mean cow person. And calf person.
Oh, it's calf.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Also, I did a translation last semester, and there was one fucking word in it. Fossera.
Oh.
And me and my supervisor, we were both like, what the fuck is this? If you go onto Edu, it's like, oh, it shows up in the Franciscan manuscript. That's it.
Oh my God.
And I was like, that's my manuscript. But Foss, because first I was like, maybe Ara is like, what's the word for noble again? It looks like a little bit like Ara.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe it's like resting nobility. But now I'm like, maybe she's a rester. Yeah.
One last one.
Okay.
Iskara.
Fisher.
Yeah.
Get in. I think it's still modern Irish.
Yeah, some of these are pretty much exactly the same in modern Irish. A rectora, going back to that, why is it a law person? And the answer is, it's probably, to my mind, not so much from what recht is used for in Old Irish, but what recht comes from in an even earlier period of the language. Because recht, etymologically, comes from an Indo-European root that has to do with the words in English reckon, as in reckoning time, or reckoning as a matter of estimating numbers, right? It also relates to the same root as the word right in English, R-I-G-H-T, as those of us who deal with Irish know G-H and C-H, especially followed by T. There's a lot of linguistic overlap between these things, and so it's not surprising for us to see R-E-C-H-T, recht, and compare that to R-I-G-H-T, right, and think these are probably related etymologically. And in English, the word right can refer to both law in the sense of it is my right as a person, or it is my right according to the Constitution, or whatever it is. But right can also refer to right-angled. And this idea of a connection between right as in angled or upright, this idea of a connection between a word having this Indo-European root that becomes rect and right and so on, that relates to law, having it be something that actually relates to counting as well. And these all come back from a single source. So a rectora, I think, should actually be interpreted as a reckoner, someone who reckons the situation of the household and accounts for it. It's sort of almost like an accountant, I suppose.
Kind of placing things in correct order as well.
It is someone who makes sure everything is right.
Right. Haha.
Yes.
I was going to ask as well about the etymology of the word, because you have a kind of female equivalent after the 10th century for inult. But inult actually originally means foster sister. So it becomes in the 10th century to mean kind of like handmaiden, but it has like a lot of servile. Is that a word, servile? Because I keep
servile.
Because I keep trying to write out my essays, and Grammarly is like stop. Okay,
I see where you get it from, though. I make up words like that too.
Yeah, I'm really bad. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I was gonna wonder, do you think it has any of those kind of connections?
I mean, it might. So, pro tip for anyone interested in etymology: easiest way to check something, especially if you're like comparing two words or something like that, is to put the word into Wiktionary and then click through the links that take you back to older and older etymologies until you find a place where they either are in common or you don't. It doesn't always work, because there are some words where they won't be sure of the etymology, or the links will not work, or whatever. But it works a good chunk of the time, and it's pretty fun to do. That's a little fun side project for anyone who's trying to compare.
That is fun.
Yeah. That is my little fun aside about the rectora. Moving on from servants, another type of dependent that we can talk about are almost all musicians. In fact, pretty much all entertainers. The reason I say almost all musicians is because there is one exception who is actually considered an independent freeman. Any guesses to what instrument they might play, Saoirse?
Harp.
Yes.
Get in.
Yes, the harpist is the one exception that is an independent freeman. Anything else, your timpanist, your flute player, your horn player, your cornera, your bagpipe player, your fife player, your trumpeter, your piper, all of them are dependents. Other entertainers include things like jugglers, jesters, eventually, acrobats, and then a few that are a little bit more uncomfortable.
Please.
Oh, yes, we're saving the best for last here. First, we've got, this one is uncomfortable in a less fun way, the druth, or the oinvid, which we can translate as fool. We can kind of think of them as a jester, but they are either usually a cognitively impaired person, or someone who is acting like that.
Oh no.
Which is...
That's so horrible.
Yeah, so that one's not great. The next one's better, but also makes me uncomfortable from one of the proposals of exactly what this person does. So the next one is the croissant, who is described as someone who may compose crude verses as sort of like an unprofessional poet, like, you know, making satires that are just fun jibes and not actually threatening, and not legal satires, toilet humor kind of people.
God.
But also they seem to have had a physical performance that involved distending their cheeks, their belly, and their bag, and interpreting what their bag is a little bit up in the air.
Jesus, it sounds like me after 4 pints, to be honest, Tyler. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Well, if you ever need one of these, get in touch with Saoirse.
If you ever see me in diets, you run by.
So the proposals that I believe Kelly gives for what this bag may be, one is a little more savory than the other. So one is that it may have been some sort of bladder attached to the end of a staff, like a medieval jester might have, which is fine. The other suggestion is a different kind of bag attached to a different kind of staff, namely the scrotum.
Get in.
I don't think it would be entirely out of place to have some guy messing around with his scrotum for entertainment, because the last one on our list is the bragator.
Fart Simpson.
Fart Simpson. Yes, this is the professional farter. Yes, this is a real thing. We actually have lovely woodcuts from the late medieval period of a couple of bragators at a very fancy feast. So if any of you want to look up J. Derrick's The Image of Irelande, Ireland spelled with an E on the end. This is a 1581 book that has, I think, 10 or 12 different really lovely woodcut images of the types of scenes that would be seen in Ireland in the 16th century. And I think it's the fourth wood plank. It's the most famous one, but it has a picture of a feast, and there's a couple of lads with their butts hanging out facing towards the table where all the fancy people are. Yeah. And those are a couple of bragators.
When I was in secondary school, they would show us that picture as an example of anti-Irish propaganda. And they would be like, and they still believed this until like the 1930s. And, you know, like it was spread across the UK and spread across, you know, North America. And we're all like, that's fucking terrible. And then I learned it's fucking true. And I'm like, oh, do you know what? I'll never excuse colonialism. I'll never excuse it. Maybe Gerald of Wales was onto something. Like, this is fucking terrible.
I don't know. I honestly
literally firing up a storm. Literally firing up a fucking storm.
I don't know. I think this one's kind of funny. I actually respect it. I think colonialism ruined the bragator profession, and it
trust me, I'm still doing it. But trust me.
Okay, next category kind of goes back to that uncomfortable druth, that fool, as we might try to term it to ease things. But this is actually a little bit better. The laws relating to people with various intellectual or cognitive impairments actually was, to my mind, fairly sound. So outside of the fact that you get your druth used for entertainment, there's also this term druth that's generally used in the laws for a cognitively impaired person. And there are a few other categories that are a little bit more specific, like the dosachtoch, which is a person with more manic symptoms that might be prone to violent or destructive outbursts. So someone who you have to be a little bit more careful with. And then there is the mayor, by contrast, who is someone who is kind of described as confused or deranged, but doesn't present very much threat.
Okay.
They're a little off in their own world, but they're not potentially violent or destructive.
That'd also be really interesting. I wonder if, because dementia and Alzheimer's have always been kicking about, I wonder if you could become.
So I'm glad.
And would your status change?
Well, I'm glad you're saying this, because the rights described in the law text for the senile and also the physically disabled sometimes are quite similar to the laws for the cognitively impaired.
Okay.
And so what are those laws? Well, first of all, in general, the kin are legally responsible for their care. So you actually, can get in trouble for not caring for one of your family members who is in this particular situation. Your king group is responsible for them. Responsibility for any offenses made by people of this kind is generally put upon the guardian, whoever that may be from the king group. So, it would usually be kind of what you would expect, like
pretty standard, actually.
The father or whatever the male superior is in most cases. There's some leniency that these people get that lots of other people would not necessarily. For example, there's no legal repercussions if a druth throws things at someone or something, like some stones or something. They won't be prosecuted for it. If a mayor, the less destructive category, commits some sort of offense in an alehouse, they're not supposed to be prosecuted for that either.
That's nice, actually.
Yeah.
I'm into this.
Yes, and also exploitation of these people is illegal.
Yes.
Yes, and we actually referred to this when we looked at the different types of unions and that last category of the so-called heinous unions, where if you try to set up two people who are cognitively impaired together, that is bad, and it is something that you get in trouble for.
It is horrible that it happened, and that it is also still happening, but just the exploitation. But it is also better than some cultures and how they would deal with it.
Yeah.
Ireland number one. Yeah, no, but it is actually a kind of, sometimes you get little snippets like these in the laws and you're like, oh, okay, this is human.
Yeah.
This is a very human thing
again, this love-hate relationship with the laws. It's so back and forth as to, wow, that's so sound, and then that's not.
Why are you farting? Why are you farting in front of the kid? Stop farting.
Okay, Saoirse, I'm about to hand over some of this to you because I've got less details on this, but
I probably have less. Don't worry.
So I'm gonna say a little bit about the serfdom in medieval Ireland. I'll just say a little bit, and if you have things to add, feel free, and then we'll move into slaves and captives. In terms of this idea of serfdom, which is, I think we agreed before we started recording, is an appropriate term.
I feel it's very appropriate. Sorry for interrupting, but there is a sense of being tied more to the land than to a lord.
Yes.
Especially with the fuidre, or the semi...
The Seanclaithe.
Yes, the Seanclaithe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I did too much shine and clean. Threw off my
Too much lenition. Palatalization?
Lenition?
Are they the same thing?
Well, so the sh was because it was palatal, and then the ch was because it was lenition.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm
a linguist.
As Saoirse is saying, this is normally translated as something like a tenant at will.
Yes.
And this is a dependent person who is dependent to a lord usually, and cannot make contracts without the lord's permission. They are responsible for carrying out assigned tasks, and usually this involves working the land and maintaining a particular homestead. And the lord in turn is responsible for maintaining his futher and paying for any fines incurred by that futher, because the futher is a dependent, so it's the person who is their superior who is responsible for, who has the legal responsibility for them. But also, if the futher would be owed fines because of offenses against him, it's the lord who gets the money or the goods.
Yeah.
So, not the best deal in the world. Now, the futher is not necessarily entirely trapped in this relationship, because if they pay the low price of 2/3 of the produce of their husbandry, in other words, 2/3 of all the milk, meat, crops, whatever they've produced over the course.
Maybe children. We don't know.
Not necessarily too clear in the law text exactly what the produce of the husbandry entails, but if they pay 2/3 of that, they can get out of this relationship and they can become independent with the whole 1/3 they have left over. So you can imagine that doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, and it's also not the land.
Yes.
This is a very important thing. So, okay, listen up, folks. My whole thesis is, first, originally, it was focusing in on slaves. It is now trying to distinguish the difference between the semi-free, the fuidre, the tenants at will, the unfree, and the slave and unpeople category. Because there's fucking unpeople. Because it's very unclear. Because within the fuidre category, there's 10 different types of rank. And it's very hard to distinguish them. So a Dorridger is kind of the same as a slave.
Okay.
Because, like, if you think about it.
And Dor just means base.
Oh, yeah, it just means base.
So Dor
So you can actually only leave with the 2/3 of husbandry if you're top fuidre.
I see. Right.
So if you're number 10 or number 1 on 1 to 10, then you can leave. But the other ranks, we also don't know if these ranks are just made up.
Right.
And it was just independent relationships that kind of dictated if this person could leave or not. Hold on, I have this written down. Like, the base fuidre, the Derrick, is not entitled to sever the relationship, and they're often assumed to be criminals.
Oh,
which is very similar to slaves.
Yeah.
And if a fuidre stays in the land, as you said, they become not even so much tied to the land or tied to the lord, it's tied to the land. And so it's actually said, I think, in the Corpus Iris, that if a new lord comes in, the fuidre doesn't leave with the household. It stays with the land and just takes a new lord.
Yes. Especially if they have become the Shanklatha.
Yeah, the hereditary.
Which is, I mean, the literal translation is something like ancient dwelling. And so that's a thither whose forebearers occupy the same land for 3 generations. And at that point, they become fully bound to the land and cannot renounce their tenancy. Even if they have 2/3 of their husbandry to produce, they can't buy themselves out now. So this is like true serfdom at this point.
Yeah. Like, and then fuidre, covel or mug, which are the gendered words for like female slave or male slave, is also kind of similar to like the shepherd and cowherd status, the ogra and bochel, because also bochel, I love the etymology of it because it just means like it's like foster son who has to look after cow.
Yes.
That's fucking funny.
Yes.
It's not that exactly, but it kind of means that. And first time I heard that, I was like, huh. But they're all grouped in together in a lot of the legal texts, and it's just trying to actually, especially when they're so insistent on saying that there's a certain amount of rank within this very already like restricted rank.
Yes, very low.
Yeah, very low. Not a lot of literature about because no fun swords. Boring. Yeah, what the fuck is going on? So when I said, I also don't really know what's going on, I really meant it.
Yeah.
I really fucking meant it. Yeah, because I was writing my literature. Oh, sorry, the cat just came in. Like, I started writing my literature review in earnest like 2 weeks ago, and I've had so many Valium because I don't know what's going on.
I feel like that's just academia most of the time, though, in part, is just like you don't know what's going on for 90% of the research process, and then you finally start figuring out what's going on by the time you hit that 90% threshold and you can start writing.
Yeah.
But also, in your case, you truly can't know what's going on because of the lack of sources.
Yeah, like I was talking to my supervisor, Kevin Murray, now Professor Kevin Murray.
Congratulations,
Kevin Murray.
Different Kevin, not the one we're at the house of.
Not house. No, I have no idea what his house looks like. This house, though, lovely. Shout out to that Kevin as well. But I was like, I don't know what to do. And he was like, read everything. And I was like, oh, okay. I guess I'll do that. Yeah, Thomas Charles Edwards in his Creac Gavlock and Law Status is also like, shit, girl. I don't know. They're all kind of muddling in together. The only thing I know for certain, because I wrote a paper on it, is that they did not like cross-status fraternization.
Yes.
they, for lack of a better term, freaked the freak out.
Yep.
They were super, super unhappy. Even when it was... Because originally the paper was supposed to be about slaves in the penitentials, but it quickly just became low status. Because once again, is there that large of a difference? Especially when you consider... You're going to talk about this next week, I think, with the farming episode. Yeah. That it's similar enough physical labour.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
Right.
Like, so...
Yeah, if people don't remember, we've talked about in some previous episodes how there are laws that if you're, say, a high-ranking person like a king and you engage in physical labor, you can lose your honor price because you are debasing yourself.
Like,
and we saw that in some episodes.
They're not allowed pet dogs as well, which I think is really sad.
Oh,
Kings aren't allowed to pet their dogs.
That is very unfortunate. So Conchover is not allowed to pet Colin.
I'd hope he wouldn't, to be honest. That's his uncle. I'd really hope he wouldn't.
Which must be really, really rough for Conchover because his name means dog lover.
Oh, does it actually?
Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah.
Oh.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that sweet?
Huh. That's weird. Actually.
There's so many Irish names that have Coo or Con in the name.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Considering his... No, sorry, anyway. Yeah. Conchover, sorry.
Yes. Let's put a brief pause on that because I want to ask you a couple of questions.
Okay.
But I think we need a little bit of context before I ask you this question.
Okay.
Which is, so that's a very brief overview of the serf situation.
Yep.
I also want to mention captives, and then we're going to go full in on your topic, Saoirse, and whatever you want to say about slaves and really these kind of lowest ranking people or non-people as they seem to be.
Oh, yeah, those guys.
But I think this context will be helpful. So the captive, or one of the words commonly used would be kimith, is a person who has committed a serious offense that has yet been unpaid. And they are captive because the person wronged is legally entitled to seize that person and hold them captive because they haven't paid their fine. Mm-hmm. So think debtor's prison, but individualized, personalized.
Personalized. They take your mom. They will take mommy, and they might take daddy too, depending on how bad it is.
This is Dorn in the saga of Fergus. So the Kimith, the captive, has no legal capacity. They can be ransomed. So, for example, in the law tract Creath Gavalach, this advises that a king should keep a man that he frees from captivity as a bodyguard, with the idea being that gratitude for being freed from their captivity will increase their loyalty to their new king and legal superior. There is a triad that suggests that a captive can be freed if exchanged for a mug or a male slave. Mm-hmm. Though I would presume that this is going to very much depend on the status of the captive.
Yeah.
You're probably going to want to ask for more if it's a very high status captive, for instance. And then outside of legal contexts, it can refer to anyone facing imminent death. And so for this reason, kimith is oftentimes a word used to describe Christ at the crucifixion.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Oh. I always thought that he was like, I don't even know how to say this, like ransomed to earth by God.
Oh, that's an interesting interpretation. I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of the thinking.
Maybe. I'm also I come from a very Catholic background, so I don't know.
You know.
Yeah. Jesus. Sorry.
I mean, it could well be part of it. And honestly, something I'm going to talk about in our last little story at the end of this episode is how, and this has kind of been mentioned before, is how the medieval Irish scribes and learned class were really good about making up shit that sounded likely. And by doing so, they sometimes made it sort of the mainstream opinion.
Yeah, I so often say that the monks are laughing at me. Like, they are making up shit. Uh-huh. And I'm there like, oh, okay, yeah. Yeah. And they are rolling around in whatever heaven, hell, ether they're in, okay? And I'm just like, oh, maybe that's not. They're just making shit up.
Yeah.
They're just guys hanging out in a cold ass scriptorium. They're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna write down whatever. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, and you can always, or almost always, track their rationale for why they do that. Like, I mean, the easiest example is etymology, right? The pseudo etymologies, false etymologies that they come up with are like, I mean, they make them sound really good.
Yeah.
And they may well be convinced by their own arguments.
I was convinced for like a full year. It's in Cormac's glossary. It's that covel, the word for enslaved female, woman. Sorry, I hate saying female. Is cum mala. So it's the Latin for by the quern.
Right.
And I was like, oh yeah, sick by. Right. And then I was like, fuck, it's Cormac's glossary. Yeah. What am I doing? Yeah.
Lovely text. Definitely don't take it at its word for most things.
Those monks are laughing at you. Cormac is howling. Cormac is howling.
Yeah. I definitely referred to Cormac's glossary's etymological description of where the Irish word for Tara, Tever, comes from back in our episode about Tara. I believe it was our interview with a deity episode.
Ooh.
With that background, Saoirse, one thing I wanted to ask you is, do you think that the reason some of these, or many of these lowest class people, the Futher, especially the lower ranking Futher, and the slaves are oftentimes treated as criminals, is that because of association with this idea of being a captive?
Oh, maybe. I actually don't think so, because we have this whole thing. Okay, well, first there's two types. You have hereditary and you have criminal.
Hereditary slaves and criminal
hereditary
slaves.
Slave, criminal... You have three, sorry. Hereditary, criminal, and foreign. So kidnapped people.
Sure.
I don't know where this association with that they're criminals come from, because actually most...
I mean, I guess there's a whole category for criminals who become slaves, and I guess that could spread
and that's
out.
kind of the un-people.
Right.
Because... as far as I'm aware, again, I'm actually just a girl yapping. So, like, I'm going to prove myself wrong in like 2 months when I'm like further into the research. But if you committed something like Fingal or incest, sometimes they would kind of just put you in a boat.
Yes.
And they would just kind of ship you off.
Yes.
And if you survived, great, you're now a slave.
Yes.
Or especially if you kind of wander into like a different territory and you're not sure that you did, but you're like, fuck it, or I have to get to the like Tuatha over. If you get kidnapped, you're fucked. You've no rights out.
Yeah.
Slave. So I don't know where this, maybe it is because the original criminal one, but I think it's mostly people that are either they've inherited this idea, or they've inherited this status, or that they're just not from that place. And there's a whole thing about foreign slaves that they're much more valuable because families wouldn't go looking, which is my theory, is that families wouldn't go looking, or Tuatha wouldn't go looking. And also they're kind of then, like if you get, Patrick, for example, he got taken from Wales, he got brought up to, I think it was Roscommon or Sligo.
I can't remember, but
I don't know, somewhere over there.
Yeah.
But like he stayed for ages because he was like, where else am I going to fucking go? Yeah. I'm stuck with this guy. Yeah. And actually, this guy is kind of, in a weird Stockholm Syndrome way, kind of protecting me against being, like, you're tied to someone then. Yeah. Do you know? Yeah. It's really fucking complicated, to be honest. Yeah. And then you have inherited slaves, like St. Bridget, whose father was both her father and her master, because her mother was a slave.
Yes.
What was the question? Sorry.
It was about the association between these lower class peoples and criminality, which I think...
Ooh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to keep going.
Please do.
So something I've actually been looking at, which is really, really interesting, is the comparative in ideas between slavery in Ireland and in the wider Christendom. Because
in the medieval period.
In the very, very early medieval period. Because in the early medieval period, how do I say this? It's your status in life is ordained by God. Which is why you have like kings are kings because God needs them to be the leader. I have a quote somewhere actually, but it's kind of not so much in Ireland. I'm actually going to go to my paper because in the penitentials, for people who don't know, the penitentials are fabulous historical sources. I love them because sometimes you're like, that's just fucking weird. How did you ever get there? But they're mainly for monks or clerics who are conducting confession, and it's if this is what the person did. So let's say, I think one of them is like they have sex outside of marriage. They're like, this is how long they should repent for. So 7 days. So it's normally 7 days of fasting, but in early medieval Ireland, you had particular days for fasting. So I think it's Wednesday. You can actually see it in modern Irish. It's Cédaoin, first fast, Derrick, second fast. Ina, it's different. Sahar. Oh yeah, I think it's just Wednesday and Thursday maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not allowed to have sex in those days either.
Right.
Which I thought was fucking really weird. I was like, so you're telling me when to write? Okay.
Yeah.
But
I think there's only like 2 or 3 days that sex is permissible.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, God, who were you to tell me? Who are you?
All things in moderation, Saoirse.
Father Ted, would you ever get out of the bedroom? Oh yeah, but there's a couple quotes within the penitentials to do with captives and the lower classes, and it's a lot of them. It's the first Synod of Patrick, the penitentials of Cummian, the penitentials of St. Finian, and the penitentials of Columbanus. Now, the penitentials of Columbanus weren't written in Ireland, nor was Cummian, actually, now that I think about it. But it's a very kind of Irish, or it started as a very Irish tradition. But a lot of them, they're using manumissions and the freedom of slaves as a way to do penance. So it's making this correlation between holding slave and stuff like eating meat or stuff like having sex, where, yes, okay, it's normal, it's natural, it doesn't make it morally right. So they're saying to get to a higher, I don't know how to say it, like soul cleanseness. I should know, I go to mass, I should know the better words. But a way to get to a higher kind of morality is to not have a slave, which is kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
In the time period that we have.
Yeah. Really interesting.
And in all of these, it's never kind of saying that the slave is wrong or the slave is lesser because they're a slave. They're lesser. Hold on, I think it's penitentials of Cummian. They're talking about. Here we are. So it's not actually, I don't think, about the anxiety of like having sex with a slave. It's because the slave is inherently dirty and they're so sinful and it's more that it's outside of your rank. So if the dirge is sung after the death of a servant woman with child, or after the death of him who cohabits with her, 40 days in bread and water. Yeah, so it's the father receives the same diminishing of status to that of a servant woman. So this is kind of implying that he is of a higher status because it's not another slave man or a servant man. It's he who cohabits with her.
Right.
So
I see.
Under the same house as her.
Right.
And it's kind of, I don't know, for me anyway, when I read it, it kind of implied he was of higher status. And it's more of a punishment for him because his status is being brought down to that of a servant woman, which is already pretty low.
Yes.
And she shouldn't be mourned anyway publicly because she did nothing great except,
Yes. Okay.
Turn the curtain.
Yeah.
Let's recap.
Let's recap. So there's a few things that I want to hit here. I guess the main reason for not being with a serving woman, a slave, whatever you want to call them, is it is going outside of your own place in the hierarchy. And I think we can really readily compare that to the same idea that I had just reminded listeners of things like kings engaging with labor that is beneath them and that lowering their status.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's also what you were saying earlier in this episode about this anxiety around having to categorize everyone and everyone having to fit into the correct exact box.
And what do you do with their kids?
And what do you do with their
and
kids?
What the fuck do you do with their kids? Because it's there's a couple instances where a mother cannot look after the child.
Right.
Or that the laws don't want the mother to look after the child. It's instances of insanity, rape. Yeah. I think it's one of the visiting union that's not approved, I think.
Yeah. See previous episode.
Yeah,
Most
see previous
details
episode.
are there.
And if she's a slave. Or if one of the parents is a slave.
Right.
So if the father is a slave and the mother is a higher class, then she has to look after the child. But it's normally unfortunately, it's a reality of life that like mostly lower class, but also particularly slave women will always like encounter sexual harassment and sexual assault. Yes. It's not okay, but it's a fact of life, and I have to kind of swallow the injustice of it all.
Especially in a patriarchal system.
But it's then more complicated because the kin doesn't necessarily have to acknowledge the child as part of the kin, but they still legally have to look after the child.
Right.
Which makes it even more because it's this whole... I'm also writing a paper about the importance of to be seen in early medieval Ireland. Yes. Because if you see a crime happen, then it happened. Mm-hmm. But if someone comes forward and they're like, this happened, or we made a deal, and they broke the deal, and they're all like, we didn't know about this deal. It's void.
Yeah, you see the same thing in the literature all the time. Like, for example, in Brickrew's Feast, all these challenges are engaged with by these three different characters, Cuchulainn being one of them, and Cuchulainn is constantly coming out on top. But because his victories are not witnessed again and again and again, his two competitors are constantly able to undermine his claims for the victory, and so they keep having to go through new trials. So it's the exact same thing of this idea of it has to be seen, it has to be witnessed.
Yes, and also, I just love the penitentials. Yeah. Track 20 of the penitentials of Finian, if you get pregnant with a bastard and you have an abortion, it's 6 months punishment. But I think if it's 6 years, it's 6 years punishment if you carry the child to term. Because you can see the sin. It's the physical manifestation of the sin. So when you have the physical manifestation of one, sex outside of marriage, and arguably worse, sex and fraternization outside of your social class, and you do not have to say that that's your kid, people will fucking know. Because again, hierarchical, consequential, very fucking communal in early medieval Ireland. People know. People aren't stupid as well. I could sniff out a bastard if you put me in a room with 400 people. I go, yeah, they're related to you. Do you know them? Irish people do it all the time. It's like, and who's your dad? You probably get it all the time. People are like, oh yeah, and do you know anyone in Ireland? And do you know the O'Briens in Tip? Would you know them? Do you know? So yeah, they were really freaked out about this, and it is a reality that people were abusing positions of power and having sex or raping. Right. More than likely, women of servant and slave status. Yeah. But what the fuck do you do with kids? Yeah. They were stressed to fuck by, let me tell you. And then, sorry, I'm just regurgitating my paper. You had this thing of manumission. So manumission literally means like freeing a slave. But in the antiquity, and in early medieval Ireland, it meant freeing a slave to a church or monastery.
Interesting.
So it's this, if we take the highest level of Fuidger, to be more of a serf, you go from a mug or a covel to a Fuidger.
I see.
Where you are now owned or tied to the land of a monastery or church.
I see. Or
you're owned to the church or the monastery. And if you go back, I think it was Gregory the Great. Yeah, Gregory the Great. So every 25 years. And it's in the Canon Cybernensis. So we know that it was a practice in Ireland. And all the penitentials, they're like, manumission, manumission, manumission. So this
is a mass event for all the slaves? Or
I don't know.
Okay.
I think... Because the penitentials, they kind of only talk about it in a way of, oh, you fucked up. Better give us your slave.
I see.
Better give us your slave. Because it was a trend to manumit to a church.
Right.
So you're like, okay, technically you're free, but if you don't do what they tell you to do, you're going to be a slave to them. Right. Even though you have to do everything they tell you to do and you have to live in their property.
Interesting. Huh. That's really interesting. Yeah, it implies a very low level, but still a level of social mobility as well, that they can move between these statuses and actually move up a bit by being handed over to the church.
And I think, again, I'm very freshly researching, but I think that the church had a lot more to do with the mobility of slaves than we think, because it's in Penitentials of Finian, but it's basically saying, like, if you go under the pretense of collecting a slave, not freeing a slave, but collecting a slave to another church, but then you raid that church, you're a bad monk.
Right.
Which, two things, hilarious. One, that monks are raiding other churches. Live, laugh, love. But also implies that it's not uncommon to go to another place of worship to collect slave labor.
I see. Interesting. It makes sense to me to some extent that the Irish church specifically, at least, would have some sort of interesting relationship with slaves and the institution of slavery, given that two of the most important saints in Ireland, Patrick and Bridget,
are fucking slaves, and no one talks about it. And then the third, like, we've 3 patron saints, and the third one, Colm Kill, is fucking, he's like a noble.
Yeah.
Like, he's like aristocracy. He's high aristocracy.
Yeah. A very interesting little situation that, like you say, people don't really talk about it too much.
No.
People acknowledge, Patrick was a slave for a while, whatever, but it's not ever really, there's not really ever a connection to the institution or sort of the place of slaves as a whole. Yeah. Which is
it's really bizarre, because, do you know, like, the Bible as a historical source is hilarious. And I'm allowed to say that. I go to Mass, okay? I am a Catholic. I am not bashing on God. I'm bashing on men. I'm bashing on men that wrote the Bible. And I'm further...
And men who selected which parts of the Bible are parts of the Bible.
And I'm further bashing on men because there's a surprising amount of Catholics that have a kind of Presbyterian idea that... I don't know, is it the Presbyterians? But they take, like, everything that was written in the Bible as absolute fact, and it's all completely divine, where in Catholicism we're a bit more like,
there are some parts of this that
some
are
parts.
literal.
Some parts. The other parts, I don't know. But, like, the Bible is so contradictory when it comes especially to slaves. Because it has slaves in it. And they're not always doing great things. They're not always doing terrible things. Like, there's... I think it's in Peter or Paul's letter to the Ephesians? I actually can't.
I'm not going to know.
I'm not going to know either, to be honest. I go to Matt, we don't talk about that. We talk about fucking RT or something.
Yeah.
But he's like, be good to your masters. Like, follow your masters. Listen to your masters. There's this whole kind of idea that when they're preaching to slaves, that, like, yes, God is your master. Of your soul, but he is but this current master you have is the master of your physical body, so do what he says as well, even if he's cruel. Do you know? So it's and then it's also like, and we're all equal, and we all, so it's a very, very interesting dynamic then, especially when you have people like the church that are the Irish church anyway, like the Penitentials, that are equating the holding of slaves with stuff like eating carrion. You know, so it's weird.
Yeah. Something I want to nail down a little bit more, because I think it's important that we're responsible about this, and it's something you did that I think was really important at the Celtic Students Conference when you gave your talk, was clarifying who these slaves are, and also things like the racial element that some people may be imagining because of the prevalence in our modern Western culture, especially if you're in America, but really any English-speaking countries, of the transatlantic slave trade, which is not what we're looking at here.
No, absolutely not. So, first of all, shut up if you think that they're in any way similar. No, like, but it is a very incredibly important distinction to make, that the transatlantic slave trade, it was racially motivated and it was capital motivated.
Yes.
And this is not a culture that we're talking about that has a strict form of capital like
They don't
money.
even really have money. As
Like,
we've been
there's no
talking
money.
about. Yeah.
Like, the money is cows. Like,
yeah.
do you know?
I mean, probably some of the, like, port towns would have some amount of currency trading, especially as you move further into the medieval period. You're going to start getting types of money. But
no, stop.
Yeah.
And we have absolutely no evidence that this is in any way racially motivated or ethnically motivated. Well, sort of ethnically motivated in the way that, like, if you just get... It's more in the way that they're foreign and their family won't come looking because it's too far.
Yeah.
It's mostly Wales. It's Wales and Scotland. Sorry, guys, we're awful. But there's no reason we have to believe that it's religiously or ethnically motivated.
Yeah.
Like it was in the transatlantic slave trade. It was not chattel.
Yeah.
These are still considered humans.
Yeah.
Which is why there is a category of unhuman.
Right.
Yeah.
And something that I think we can add to that is that the concept of race in the medieval period was not even really developed in the same way that we have it now.
Yeah.
And differences tended to be marked more by things like clear cultural and religious differences than things like skin color.
Yeah, like, as well, like, a lot of our modern ideas of race come from the Enlightenment, which was just fucked. That was fucked up.
Enlightenment might not be the best term.
Yeah, I think it's more like weird fucking guys from Denmark going to the fucking... Oh my god. Jesus Christ. What were they doing in Virginia? Like, Jesus. But, like, it's... or kind of modern interpretations of race. Actually, Lizzie Boyle talks about this in her book Fierce Appetites, which I read, by the way. I didn't expect to cry over a book like that. I was proper like, oh, it's fantastic. Highly recommend to read it. Because it goes into, like, it touches on early medieval stuff as well. So if you're ever looking for kind of a light read and one that will make you laugh, that's a good one. But this kind of idea that is also an idea as well that, like, everyone was just very stagnant in the early medieval stage, that, like, nobody left their tuatha.
I mean the main compulsion for traveling was religious.
Yes.
You had your pilgrimages and you had your peregrini, the Irish are particularly well known for sending scholars, usually monks, of course, out into the continent, which is why we get so much literature that's in Irish, or has at least glosses in Irish and is maybe scribed in an Irish hand, even if it's in Latin, on the continent. So with that being said, I think it's also helpful to just draw some other examples that are not even necessarily Irish examples. And this is probably the best episode I'm going to get to drop the name of the Corantes group, which is a anti-fascist, anti-racist Celtic studies group. They have a reading group. They have some quarterly meetings and things. They're really cool. And I was at one of their reading group sessions recently, and our good friend and colleague, Dr. Emmett Taylor, was there as well. So I'm going to be basically just repeating things that Emmett had said in this particular meeting. So shout out to Emmett once again. We were looking at a couple of different papers about race in the medieval period, and one conversation that came up, this was not directly written into the articles we were dealing with, but it came up as a result of talking about them, was that in Geoffrey of Monmouth's famous work about the history of Britain, the very legendary pseudo-historical history of Britain, he basically defines Europe as a place that basically extends from Britain. Ireland is not really part of Europe so much. It's there, but those people, they're savage and primitive.
Yeah, we are.
And then
we're farting.
And then it cuts off at Spain. And the reason it cuts off at Spain is probably because of the Moorish people there and that very distinct cultural and religious difference. It's not a racially motivated one. It's one based on how distinct the culture becomes. Obviously, today, Spain is very much part of Europe, but that gives you kind of a little bit of an insight into the medieval mind. Another thing to mention here is that in terms of race as we perceive it today, and this idea of skin color in particular being one of the most obvious markers of the modern quote-unquote definition of race, which, just really isn't a thing, but people pretend it is, the first, or at least one of the earliest references we get to a black person in the medieval Irish literature is a person who is a member of the court of Conchover Mac Nessa in Ulster.
Oh.
He is mentioned in the text Mesca Ulith, or the intoxication of the Ulstermen. So I have actually that section pulled up. This is a pretty old text, if I remember correctly. I think that it's one of the earlier texts in the Ulster cycle, so we're talking probably 9th century maybe.
I did not know this.
Yeah. So I'll just read the description of this guy. So the interesting thing about how dark-skinned people are described in Irish is that it's very common to refer to people by their hair color. So if you read about a fair dove, literally a black man, it's not talking about a black man in the way we think of it today. It's talking about a man with black hair.
And also in the modern language, if you say like fear dove or chalín dove, it's referring to the devil.
Interesting.
So like when my dad, he get pissed off. He's like, oh, like the fear dove out. Like he's like referring to like his brother being the devil. Do you know? And I remember one day I was wearing a black dress at work, and a chalín dove means a whore. Right?
Right, of course.
Or like it has like whorish connotation. And I was working, and there was this fella, and he was, his name was, what was his name? Jim or something. But he was a little bit older, and he was always trying to impress me. So he also used to pretend that he would speak Irish regularly, and it was like, no, you don't. like I would be the first one to say my Irish is not the best, but like this guy, like, just, whoa, no Irish on him. And he saw that I was wearing a black dress, and he was like, chalín dove. And I was like,
okay.
I was like, fuck you, boy. I was like, don't be. Anyway, sorry, that's just another.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, but yeah, we say gorum.
Yes,
mostly.
Gorum. Yes. So which means blue. But this was how people with black skin would be described as gorum. This is the word that's used here, and I'm just going to read the English. But when I read black, it's actually most literally blue, but it's referring to black skin. This is some dude describing the people that he sees of Conchover's court. And the first one he lists is, I saw a band of their rabble, one man in their midst with a black, pointed, thick head of hair, having large, subtle, all-white eyes in his head, and a smooth, blue Ethiopian countenance. So it was actually translated as blue here. A ribbed garment enfolds about him, a brazen clasp in his garment over his breast, a long bronze wand in his hand, and a melodious little bell beside him, which he touches with his wand before the host, so that it gives pleasure and delight to the arch-king and to the whole host. And he's describing this to Queen Medivh, and this is, well, this may actually sound bad now that I think about it. This is the royal fool of Conchover.
Oh,
no! But this is not a druth.
Yeah.
This is more of the... This is actually like the royal fool, the royal gesture is actually
it's a pretty good high standard. It just doesn't sound great.
As far as entertainers go, yeah. It doesn't sound great in context.
Guys, we're so progressive. We're so woke. We have a black guy. He's the fool. Oh no, we're racist. We're racist.
But you can tell from the description that he's actually like being described in a very
it's not derogatory.
No, it's not. It doesn't come across that way at all. And so this is perhaps the earliest reference that we have survived.
And wasn't Ethiopia like extraordinarily rich during this time?
Sorry, it may well have been.
This just a side. Well, it was somewhere in the West Africas. But I only learned about it like 2 years ago with one of the history modules, and it was like an abundance of wealth. Like it was genuinely like we were learning about it, and I was actually like, what the fuck? Are you serious? Yeah, anyway.
Meanwhile, in Ireland.
Yeah, in Ireland, we're like, don't worry, boys, we have a cow. Don't worry about that, brother. Yeah,
this fella over here can even measure his wealth in hundreds of
cows. We are goated, lads. Don't worry about it.
Long story short, race in medieval Ireland very different and not really at all connected to slavery beyond this idea that Saoirse you were mentioning, and something also I wanted to come back to, of this association between slaves and outsiders.
Yes.
Where very frequently outsiders who come in because they were perhaps set adrift, as you mentioned, that particular punishment, or for whatever other reasons, or they're foreigners who've been captured in battle, whatever it happens to be, however they come in, frequently they find themselves enslaved.
Yeah.
And I think that another interesting tie-in to stuff going on in today's political climate, because I might as well capitalize on the political nature of this particular episode, is this association that is being trumped up in the West in particular.
Trumped up is a great word for it.
Right. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Between immigration and immigrants and crime. And this idea that we're importing crime into the Western countries.
It's very prevalent actually at the minute in Ireland, because violence against women is very much here, and it's not always taken seriously. It's actually quite rarely kind of taken seriously by the authorities. And it was in the last month or two, up the north, there was a woman attacked by an immigrant. I can't remember where he's from, but there was absolute fucking riots. Yeah. Like, I mean, like, also to the point that, like, random houses on random streets were being trashed. Like, it was very much racially motivated. And then it came out a couple weeks ago, there was a woman gang raped by 5 men. But they were all Irish.
Right.
It was mentioned, I think there was a 40-second mention of it on RT. But it's very, very a lot, and it's harrowing to see, because it's just kind of just the rise of fascism. Yeah. Frankly, this idea of patriotism in the way of it's like a very corrupted idea of protection. Yeah. While also not. Yeah. If anything, it's damaging the culture. It's damaging the people of the culture. It's damaging literally fucking anything. And you're kind of a piece of shit. Me and Tyler, you attended more because I had to work. But there was an anti-immigration protest in Cork City. And thank fuck there was an anti-immigration.
It was like 10 times as big.
It was 10 times as big. And I cried on the way into work because I had to work. I couldn't get it off. I was the only one working that day as well. But on the walk in, I could see all these Irish flags, which are being, used for... Also, like, we've the biggest fucking immigration in the entire world, but sure, look. Look at the fucking Paragazios. We've been doing that for years, lads. But you're seeing these Irish flags kind of used as a symbol of hate. Also with a lot of MAGA stuff.
Yeah, which is wild.
I could get into fucking modern day economic colonialism. And no offense, how the States uses it in so many countries. And also how Britain kind of uses it. I don't think they realise it as much, but it's very much there. Yeah. And people going around with balaclavas kind of glorifying the IRA of the 1950s, 1960s, which was a horrific time. Like, people that glorify it either just have no forethought to the actual living experience of it, or they just don't really give a fuck and they've watched too many Marvel films and they think that, bomb equals good. But then, on the other hand, you have Irish flags, young people, old people, all coming out in solidarity with Palestine flags saying this is not okay. This is not part of who we are. This is not a cultural identity. It is not Irish first. That's a bizarre thing. And I just also want to say, they keep using like the Irish language and they're spelling it all wrong. Okay? And if you're gonna fucking do it, right, do it fucking properly. Stop. Sorry. Okay, we're gonna stop
pretending that you
stop
know the
fucking
language.
pretending, and stop acting like that you actually have ever made an attempt to relearn, your own fucking culture. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting mad all over again. It's just like the Pantheon.
I hear you. Yeah. I mean, it just goes to show, I think, how ingrained some of this stuff is, that we've still got things that we can compare happening today back to medieval times. Yeah. I mean, even looking at things like the Levergovala, the Book of Invasions, that is essentially a story of colonization of Ireland, and it's trumped up to be this great origin story for the Irish.
Yeah,
and then the Irish get to soon suffer colonization at the hands of Britain. Actually, about the same time that the Levergovala is really being pulled together is probably about the same time as the Norman invasion is really kind of taking off, which is really interesting. So there's a lot to unpack here. The medieval period is hardly it's far from ideal, but I think it can also teach us a lot about our own times and how to be better.
Yeah, it really does. And it's especially why I enjoy studying the medieval period is it's very human.
Yes.
And when you study any histories, you can very easily pick out a pattern. Yes. Like right now we're going through economic hardship, economic insecurity. That normally comes to national pride. Mm-hmm. That normally, in the wrong hands, turns to fascism, which will bring World War III. So stop.
Which is the story of Carbra Cathead's takeover.
Yeah, it's very important to educate ourselves, and it's very important for us who can hear the dog whistle to speak out and educate ourselves. Yeah. Okay.
So I want to wrap up this episode with now that we've strategically distracted our listeners.
I didn't even know we were going to do that. That was fantastic.
I have a challenge for you listeners now that we've gone through this. I'm going to read you out Lug's list once again and give you the various professions that he said that he had that we mentioned near the beginning of the episode. And I want you to see if you can figure out how many of these are and which of these are independent non-nemed classes, how many and which are dependent classes, and how many are something else, if any, and if there's something else, what is that something else? So the list again is, you ready? Builder, smith, champion, harper, warrior, poet, sorcerer, physician, cupbearer, and brazier. Okay, listeners, we'll give you the answers at the end of the episode, but first, I've got one last story for you.
Yay!
This is another story, like the Lug story, from Comparative, and it's a little side story about Derrick, the physician of the Tuatha De Danann, and his two children. This particular scene is frequently referred to as the death of Meach, who is Derrick's son. So I'm going to just start with a quote from the story after just a little bit of exposition to explain that in the Comparative, the king of the Tuatha De is Nuada. And Nuada becomes known as Nuada of the Silver Arm because in the first battle of Comparative, his arm gets chopped off. And this is a blemish. So Derrick, the physician, is not able to restore his arm, but he is able to do something almost as good by creating one of the world's earliest prosthetics and creating a silver arm to attach to Nuada's stump. This magical silver arm works just as well as a regular arm, but it is unfortunately still considered a blemish, so there's a whole side quest about Nuada having to hand the kingship over to some other guy, and we'll talk about that when we go through this tale in properly. But eventually he does get back into the kingship, and that is after his arm gets fully, properly restored by Derrick's son. I'm going to just quote this bit of the story. Now, Nuada was being treated, and Derrick put a silver hand on him, which had the movement of any other hand. But his son Meach did not like that. He went to the hand and said, "Joint to joint of it, and sinew to sinew," and he healed it in 9 days and nights. The first 3 days he carried it against his side, and it became covered with skin. The second 3 days he carried it against his chest. The third 3 days he would cast white wisps of black bulrushes after they had been blackened in a fire. Whatever that last part means.
Ugh.
But this effectively fixes Nuada's arm. After these 9 days, I suppose it is, that passes, his arm is whole and not silver. It's a proper, human, or I guess in this case, a mortal arm. And so it goes on to say, Dian Cecht did not like that cure. He is jealous.
Ooh, she.
He hurled a sword at the crown of his son's head and cut his skin to the flesh. The young man healed it by means of his skill. Dian Cecht struck him again and cut his flesh until he reached the bone. The young man healed it by the same means.
Dian Cecht kind of fucking sucks. Jesus Christ. Sorry.
Yeah, and of course Dian Cecht struck a third time and reached the membrane of his brain. The young man healed this too by the same means. Then he struck the fourth blow and cut out the brain so that Miach died. And Dian Cecht said that no physician could heal that blow. After that, Miach was buried by Dian Cecht, and 365 herbs grew through the grave, corresponding to the number of his joints and sinews. Then Ereviv, the daughter of Dian Cecht, spread her cloak and uprooted those herbs according to their properties. Dian Cecht came to her and mixed the herbs so that no one knows their proper healing qualities unless the Holy Spirit taught them afterwards. And Dian Cecht said, "Though Miach no longer lives, Ereviv shall remain." What's really interesting about this story, besides
all of
this
it,
idea that Dian Cecht is really fucked up, but the story becomes a lot more interesting. I picked this one out because of two reasons. One, it relates to one of our independent classes that we talked about, the physician, and it stresses this importance of herbs that we had talked about earlier in the episode in relation to that. But also it relates, more than you would think, to farming. This becomes apparent when we look at the meaning of the names of the characters involved.
Uh-huh.
Ereviv is an adjective noun from erev, which is a verb that means counts or reckons or enumerates.
Oh, shit.
So
I got that wrong.
It's okay, I spoke over you anyways. Hence, one who counts. Miach is a word that is used for it's like a bushel.
Okay.
It's a particular measure of capacity for cereal crops.
Sorry.
And then
it's a particular measure for the bush.
Bushel is a funny word. Dian Cecht. Dian means something like swift or forceful.
Okay.
And Cecht means plow. So we have the swift plow cutting down the bushel. And then we have someone counting or enumerating the
365.
the harvest.
Yeah. Oh.
So it seems to be a little anecdote that's kind of just a metaphor for the harvest.
Oh my god,
so
that's sick.
it is.
And those who understand how these herbs work, doctors, are given this gift by the Holy Spirit.
Yes, it's bringing in that Christian element. So doctors are going to be able to use those herbs only if they have been given knowledge by God to use them. So it's sort of a Christian legitimization of this almost witchy sort of practice of herb use.
Sorry, I feel like I'm derailing this every 2 seconds.
Not at all.
But it's a really interesting thing that in these Aesdana people, these like crafts people.
Yes.
It's kind of like the filler that there's no acknowledgement of the work that goes into it. They're just bestowed with a gift.
Right.
So with the filler, it's Imboss.
Yes.
And now with
these guys, it's the Holy Spirit,
it's the Holy
I guess.
Spirit.
Yeah.
That's a really...
Yeah.
Maybe it's because it's done... Maybe it's going back to this whole thing of like public equals fact. So like if you do quiet and personal
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a few things going on with this particular story. So one thing that I think might be happening with the Holy Spirit bit, I'm not sure how much of that is this same idea of MS with this sudden inspiration as opposed to the hard work that's actually required. Yeah. That could definitely be part of it, but I think it's also partly an attempt to Christianize this very
non-Christian story.
Another thing that I think that is definitely happening here, or is very likely happening here, is an example of what we were talking about earlier with the people who are creating these stories making shit up that sounds good.
Yeah.
Because I've read, and now I can't refer to a specific article because this is just in the back of my brain somewhere, but I've definitely read in more than one place scholars being skeptical that Dian Kek's name has this actual meaning of swift plow, or at least that the Kekt element means plow. But it is very reasonable to suppose that the Irish eventually came to a point where the name had become, there'd been a large enough span of time between when the name originated and its original meaning and this new time when Kekt sure sounds a lot like a word they are using for plow now, and they reinterpret it in that way and then create this particular story to fit that name. And Miach and Ereviv, I don't think we get very many references to them, so they could be characters that are pretty much made up for the purposes of this story and therefore names that are appropriate to something involving a plow and trying to give a story that gives a rationale for Dian Kek's name is the whole game there that's being played.
I love that. That's so fun.
And it works very well to prepare us for our next episode on farming. So that's why I chose this one. Okay, now you all have waited long enough, I'm sure with bated breath, to see how you did on our little quiz. So the number of independent non-nevid from Lug's list in Old Irish that you should have gotten were 6. They are the builder, the smith, the harper, the sorcerer, think druid, and the physician and the brazier. The dependents, there are 3. So the champion, the warrior, and the cupbearer would all normally be dependents on someone else if that is their sole profession. And there was one other, and of course that was the poet, who is of the Nevid class. So if you did well on that, give yourself a pat on the back, let us know, and we'll give you a pat on the back as well. Okay, I think that's all we have time for on this episode, Saoirse. This was a hefty one.
This was a hefty one, Jesus.
But
sorry.
We got through a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah, I think we did. We got through like heavy stuff as well.
We did get through some heavy stuff.
Yeah, to those who didn't enjoy my 3 large rants, sorry.
Well, I got a little into them too, to be fair. But in our next episode on farming, that one won't be quite so political. Thank you for listening to Fabula Celtica. Please rate and review our podcast and share it with friends. You can follow us on the site formerly known as Twitter, on Instagram, or on Blue Sky at Fabula Celtica, or you can email us at fabulaceltica@gmail.com.
My boyfriend, his last name is Callan, and that relates. His dad is really into genealogies. They've been in. Oh, it's not Cashel, but it's in Tipperary. Oh my god, he's gonna kill me. Fuck, where is he from? Oh no. Okay.
Time to look at a map.
Tipperary towns. Oh fuck, he's gonna kill me.
Shout out to Aaron.
Fuck, he's actually gonna kill me. Stop telling me about Tipperary towns. Jeez. What are the towns in Tip called? I know it's called Tipperdorn. Jesus. Okay, Tip map. No, stop showing me Australia. Why? Okay. Tipperary, Ireland map. Jeez. Oh my god, he's actually gonna kill me. No, it's not Clon. It's Clon. I thought Clonmel was Cork. Shows you how much I know.
Well, I'm sure you know more than I do as far as Irish geography goes. You've at least had more years to absorb it.
I don't think I do, to be honest. Thurles.
Oh,
he's from Thurles.
Okay, yes.
Oh my God.
Do you want to start that again?
Yes, I will start that again. Thank you. Oh my God. You should see, even I'm working, I stand up in the bar and I just start farting in people's faces. I'm like, you are welcome, my love.
Oh, yes. Good stuff. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I usually save up mine for evening. I have to say, when you're on a vegetarian diet, it
oh my
builds up
God.
over the course of the day.
When I was vegan, the beans.
There's so many beans.
The beans would kill.
And I mean, a lot of the times I don't even necessarily eat beans in their bean form, but there's so many like, you know, vegetarian substitute things that are made from like chickpeas and such that they're in your system.
The beans.
There's so many.
Oh God.
Sorry, I guess I'm gonna have to put a TMI on this for farting.
So I don't. I'm the first not great unsavory. No, the second unsavory performer. The one that's just going around farting, telling dick jokes. Fuck's sake,
you have
seriously.
both croissant and bragator credentials.
Yeah, that's
very good. You're
highly
desirable in the medieval Irish.
Yeah, I'm number
market.
one. I'm putting that on all my academic CVs as well.
I think you should.
Give me one Guinness.
Just put them as single words in Old Irish and see what happens.
And do you know what? If they don't spot it, I shouldn't be working for you anyway.
yeah. And now I'll probably like insert some what is the
timer?
What is the show that
Countdown?
Is this just an American show? What is it?
No, I know.
Is it Jeopardy?
I thought you were going to say countdown, you know, like the...
Well, I'll put some fun countdown in
something
here
fun.
instead of my voice and instead
or
of
both of us singing.
Oh, that too. Yeah.